Logo, Sony. The narrator reads text on the screen.
Everything's about telling me a story. That's what we, as storytellers, love to do.
3D animations appear of Spider-Man. A crew films on an artificial city backdrop. People work in a Western-themed office. People pose for photos on a stage with a large screen behind them.
Creative is a process, and not everybody has the same process.
We built this for creators and creatives.
Various multicolored icons of organic shapes flash faster and faster. Text, Sony Creators Conference. Innovating live-action and animated projects. Mike Ford, Chief Technology Officer, Sony Pictures Imageworks, speaks in front of movie posters.
So at Imageworks, over the last 31 years, we've really taken a lot of those impossible requests, right? It's what we, as storytellers, love to do.
Michael Losker, Visual Effects Supervisor, Sony Pictures Imageworks, sits in a panel on the stage in front of a screen showing an animated Spider-Man film.
Our development team innovated and built tool sets from the ground up. Using a new spider crowd system, we're able to build a considerable amount of additional spider characters with varying colors, logos, and body dimensions.
A sculpted angular blue and red costume appears on a Spider-Man figure. Spider-Man and women soar through beams on strings of web.
This enabled us to create an almost limitless army of spider people.
Alan Hawkins, head of character animation, Sony Pictures Imageworks, sits on the panel.
We're trying to figure out how to handle his spidery actionness. The ideas of him being kind of like a Xerox zine cutout were already there, and the challenge was, how do we incorporate that? How do we make that fit with everything else? Because obviously it's a very complicated design.
Illustrations of Spider-Man in punk-style clothes with a guitar.
And if we do it wrong, he might end up stealing the show in every scene that he's in.
Text, Engineering for Creativity at Sony Pictures Animation. Yoda Katsambas, Executive Director of Technology at Sony Pictures Animation, Distinguished Engineer, Sony Corporation. He speaks on stage in front of a screen showing a tangled arrow from idea to production labeled Creative Process.
Each artist has their own workflow within an application. How do we embrace the chaos and create efficiencies?
The arrow from idea to production straightens.
The choice that we made for Flixi was to create these importers-exporters.
Animators work on computers.
But we still wanted to have a way to allow artists to work in a 3D environment.
An image of a game controller appears next to animation software in the presentation.
So you move the game controller around and you take a photo kind of thing. It renders out of frame, sends it to Flixi. From Flixi, you can open it in your application of choice. The things that we look for is how do we improve creativity.
Text, Visual Effects using real-time technology. Jason Reitman, filmmaker, Ghost Core, sits on a panel.
I have to admit, what excited me the most is I knew the least about this. So the idea of shooting in a virtual environment, it felt very foreign, but it was also really exciting.
Filmmakers work in a room filled with equipment. An animation of a virtual city's streets and skyscrapers. Text, Sony Pictures Technologies Real-Time Visual Effects Proof of Concept Project.
The first time you took me down to look at that virtual city, I couldn't quite believe how exciting and thrilling it was to be on a virtual tech scout.
Miles Perkins, Director, Unreal Engine Business, Media, and Entertainment, Epic Games, sits on the panel.
Understanding what goes into telling a story, the happy accidents, the challenges that you have sometimes in trying to convey a message to a team of people.
Animators render 3D characters on computers. David Murrant, VP, Creative Arts, Sony Interactive Entertainment, sits on the panel.
My first game I worked on, you look back at that now and you look at the pixels on that game and all you see is giant blocks moving around.
Marshmallow Man from the movie Ghostbusters walks outside a building. Mahmoud Ranama, Chief Innovation Officer, Pixamondo, sits on the panel.
We accidentally walked into a building, then all saw outside from inside, and Jason's like, this is such a cool shot.
It kind of expanded my ability to kind of see right in front of me what I could get.
Text, A New Frontier, taking optical tracking to the virtual world of sports. Sam Bourne, Product Manager, Hawkeye Innovations, speaks in front of a screen showing a soccer player kicking a ball.
The optical tracking technology which makes all of this possible is known as SkeleTrack.
A skeleton model appears over the bodies of basketball player on a court.
And combined with our powerful visualization tool known as Hawk Vision, it brings the world of sports into the virtual world. But how does that work?
Nikolaus Westerhoff, Chief Technology Officer and Co-founder, Beyond Sports, speaks in front of screens showing virtual hockey players from multiple angles and in slow motion.
So the applications that we develop on top of these virtual simulations are built for live broadcast, and going fully virtual allows us to create impossible camera angles like this to see how the puck is going just between the arm and the leg of the goalkeeper. And so creating a perfect impossible camera angle together with things like the slow motion really gives us new ways of visualizing compared to traditional broadcast.
Hiroki Nagahama, Deputy Senior General Manager, Technology Infrastructure Center, Sony Group Corporation, speaks in front of a screen with text, Journey to a Virtual World. Virtual Stadium, Social, Recurring Engagement.
So I want to talk about the virtual world on top of a CG creation content using tracking data.
Animated people run through a 3D city.
We have built virtual Etihad Stadium. This is the home stadium for Manchester City, for users to come together with their friends, talking with each other, sharing their passions.
The animated fans run into the virtual stadium and cheer on the field.
Hopefully they are making the new friends in the virtual world.
Text, Future of Virtual Production in Music. Anastasia Delmark, film director, speaks on a panel.
I love to make things like this in an immersive space where the artist can feel and act. We were able to preview so precisely. I saw the image and I felt, wow, I'm in there.
Iram Uyghur, Unreal technical artist, Sony Innovation Studios, speaks on a panel.
Obviously, optimization is a big part of it, where we use Unreal Engine, and one of the big deals we have is we have so much resolution on our wall.
Filmmakers work with virtual cityscapes. Text, pre-production, testing and optimization.
You can't compare it to the PC you're working on.
Tobias Anderberg, VP, Software Engineering, Sony Innovation Studios, speaks on a panel.
That's actually why we are here at Sony Innovation Studios. Is we want to build and create technology that enables Anastasia and her team to create and do whatever they want. What crazy ideas can you come up with next?
Text, GT Sophie, a breakthrough in racing simulation game, Gran Turismo Sport. Peter Werman, Director, Sony AI America, speaks in front of a screen showing the logo of FIA Gran Turismo Championships and cars racing on a virtual track.
Our grand challenge was to recreate the experience that top drivers have when racing each other. The first thing you have to do to be able to race against the top drivers is be as fast as them. The tool that we used to accomplish this was called reinforcement learning. The idea is there's an agent embedded in the world, the agent takes actions, the world changes, but that wasn't really enough. For example, if you can use a slipstream to get some extra speed and then pass the car in front of you. So we have to do it in a way that trains the agent to be respectful. And there's something about what GT Sophie's doing that allows it to come out of those corners faster and maintain more speed and therefore beat the best drivers in time trial situations.
Text, Obsessed with Realism, Gran Turismo, based on a true story. Carter Swan, Senior Producer, PlayStation Productions, speaks on a panel.
From the beginning, we've been really creatively inspired. Once we found Jan's story and there was a real story we could tell, that's really the key that unlocked everything, because it just made everything feel authentic.
Jacques Juford ASC, Director of Photography, Gran Turismo, based on a true story, speaks on a panel.
I used the Sony Venice 2, the Rialto. I knew from the get-go this is the one that I wanted to use.
Filmmakers set up cameras inside a car and beside a racetrack.
One thing that was extremely important to Neil was that the audience always knows what's going on the track. I finally got this genius idea, well, why don't we use the same car that they have? This way you could keep up with them barely, because he had so many cameras on it.
Carter.
For us, we really wanted to have the actors out there because they're feeling the G-forces. It looks real. Authenticity was what we were trying to capture. The game itself is built on realism. We've seen a lot of effects-heavy driving stuff and racing. Doing it in a realistic fashion would help us kind of take the movie to a new level and make it really feel fresh and different than anything else out there.
Text, next-gen development for games, rendering technologies behind Gran Turismo 7, VR, ray tracing and sky simulation. Kintaro Suzuki, Lead Graphics Engineer, Polyphony Digital.
PlayStation VR2 support in Gran Turismo 7. High FPS and high refresh rates are required.
Text, what you need for a pleasant VR experience, high rendering performance, high refresh rate, optimized 2D UI.
This is achieved by optimizing the user interface. PSVR 2 has an HDR 4K panel. It also has a 6D motion tracking, and we can use gaze tracking features.
Next-gen development for games, Screen Space Shadows. Graham Aldridge, Principal R&D Engineer, Bend Studio, stands before a screen showing a mountainous landscape.
Today, I'm here to talk to you about Screen Space Shadows. Days Gone on the PS4 was the first game to use this technique, and it used it primarily or only for the sun shadows. Later titles used it for point and spotlights. And the interesting thing you can see here is actually there's a 1 pixel edge around some of these trees, and this is simply because a pixel doesn't shadow itself, but it shadows the next one. So that is the screen space effect.
Text, next-gen development for games, 3D asset creation with generative ML. Logan Olson, Director of Generative ML, Haven Studios.
Personalization and customization are a big thing. So when we were working on machine learning R&D, we were thinking about how that can help with personalization. Masks, like you see on this monkey crew here.
3D images appear on a screen of a person with a colorful skull face and a person with a gorilla face. Text, our WIP, 3D generated face masks.
Seemed like a good target to do exploration. And so we looked into this idea of using mesh-based constraints so that this actually abides by the avatars we're using.
Nasir Khalid, ML researcher, Haven Studios.
How can we improve these results and end up, applying them to games? So the first one is this idea of rendering the normals. So what happens is these normal renders end up encoding information about the shape just through the render itself. So when you optimize using these, what you'll end up with is something that you get smoother, cleaner shapes as you're doing these generations.
Cool, guys. Well, thank you so much, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.
Various multicolored icons of organic shapes flash. Text, Sony Creators Conference. Logo, Sony. Copyright 2023 Sony Group Corporation. Copyright 2023 Sony Pictures Technologies Incorporated. All rights reserved. Ghostbusters Elements Copyright 2023 CPII. All rights reserved. Copyright and trademark 2023 Marvel. Spider-Man, Across the Spider-Verse, the movie. Copyright 2023 Sony Pictures Animation Incorporated. All rights reserved. Virtual Production Technology and LED Volume Stage by Sony Innovations Studios Incorporated. Gran Turismo 7 Copyright 2023 Sony Interactive Entertainment Incorporated.